Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum. Hello, dear listener. It is I, Eb, here with my host of the hour, Scott, with the what episode is this again,
This
Scott?
is episode 22 of the 22 clan.
22. Dang, dear listeners, it's been a long road.
Yeah. Yeah, next week's gonna be April.
Yep, true spring of spring.
I mean, it's actually spring now, though.
Yeah, it's too chilly,
Well,
but yeah.
I just wanted to say I literally just woke up like 30 minutes ago. So I don't have as much energy as one might have if they weren't just napping. But, we'll get there. We'll get there. Um, Anything new happening to you this week?
No, I finished my first term. I am now just kind of using the weekend to relax, really. Get ready for the new job.
That makes sense.
So pretty chill week or weekend at least.
Yeah, I don't really have much either on my end that I did recently. I'm still contemplating that an important and big decision for my career. You know what I'm saying? Funny, because the reason why, with my job, I'm technically in the off season, and the on season starts on the late half of April. So if I wanted to be relatively nice to my coworkers, then I should have changed or quit before the actual season starts, so they can
Oh, so you can
open the
train
position
someone.
up and get people in, right?
Yeah,
But
but
alternatively, I could stay until my actual complete year on paper at that company is, which is going to be on the later half of April, actually, like the middle of April. But
mm,
I mean, at this point, it's just like, who knows? Who knows? We'll find out. You'll definitely know by next episode, probably, if I bring it up again.
true. It's getting pretty close though.
Yeah, yeah. But for this episode, I wanted to go back to the court cases because I wrote down a lot of court cases and we only got through four last time. So is there anything you want to like update about this first episode that you thought about now?
For where the last court cases that we did?
Yeah, if you remember them.
Let me see.
Like for instance, the thing that I want to just like reiterate is basically when we talked about the
What was
last
the last
case that
one?
we asked you to skip
Yeah.
if you weren't ready for it. Um, that person still got charged with something else, but they were just trying to charge them specifically for that charge of that court case, right? Which is why, unfortunately, they had to. I think, and don't quote me on this, even though I read it a couple of weeks ago. Uh, I think they didn't charge him for those charges just because of the fine print of the definition of what they were trying to get him for, right?
Yeah.
Which
So
kind
they
of
just charged
sucks
him with something
because if
else.
someone was doing something that egregious and you can't get them to get the maximum punishment as possible because of the fine prints of the text, it's kind of like, dang, that sucks, Got away with it.
That is true. You did kind of get away with it.
Yeah. But I think they still got him for other charges besides that one mentioned. Because obviously you can't really defend himself.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's all I had to say for my post week analysis of what I said last week. Or last week, I guess.
I feel like the last one was the only one that really stuck in my head because it was just a crazy one. It
Yeah,
was
I mean,
interesting to see how far it got.
I did go from the very easier ones to the most craziest one I had out the get go.
Yeah,
So, you want another crazy one then?
I do.
All right. Now stay with me. This is actually a long story. And by long story, I mean I wrote down notes on a sticky note, and this was the entire first page. So, um, Okay. Now I had to try to remember this because I read this at work, and it's I have to try to get my memory correct. The year is 1991. Uh, a wife poisons the husband, and with the help she made with the help of her children and her roommate that she like lives with, they helped dump the body on the side of the road, right? And
Okay.
she claimed insurance under her name because they were married and she was the main person, whatever.
Okay.
Um, we're gonna call her. we're gonna call her Karen. we're
Karen.
gonna call her Karen, right? And then the roommate, we're gonna call. I don't know, Cindy, I guess.
Okay.
So Cindy. Well, actually, Karen convinced Cindy to make Karen her beneficiary for that insurance for her. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So now she's under the husband and now the roommate as the primary. Okay.
Okay.
So her daughter, Karen's daughter, has a boyfriend, right? And she is trying to manipulate the boyfriend of her daughter to kill the roommate, Cindy, so that she can
Okay.
get the claim. So of course the boyfriend is like, no, I'm not gonna kill someone. Well, no, that's so dumb. Why would I do that? But eventually, over time, like the manipulation kind of happens, and
No way.
he stabs her in the neck and leaves her to die. And then the ambulance picks her up, and they take her to the hospital. And Karen goes in as Cindy's mother, like fakes being
Yeah.
her mother, signs a DNR, a do not resuscitate order, so that she passes away.
Mm,
Right? Then Karen convinces her daughter to fake her identity as her best friend and put that
okay.
under her life insurance. So now
Mm,
Karen is under the primary life insurance like provider thing for her husband, the roommates, and now her daughter's best friend, right?
okay.
So her daughter's best friend comes in because she's moving from out of state into like the area, so she needs a place to recoup before she moves out, right?
Yeah.
So she moves in and she starts to uncover the truth of the previous misdeeds of Karen because Karen told her specifically, saying, if I get into an arson, you're going to be my alibi. Is this okay? Right? And of course, the daughter's friend is like, no, why would you ever do that? And because of that, she eventually found out about all the other stuff. So on the day before her best friend was going to move, she
Okay.
convinced the boyfriends of her daughter to once again commit the heinous acts of murder, right? So basically, instead of a stab this time, she passed him a crowbar and just smacked the back of her head until she died, right?
Okay.
They moved the
How did he
body.
get away with the first killing?
Yeah,
What
the
the
first
hell?
killing, they just dumped it on the side of the road and no one knew what happened. And then the second killing was the DNR. So, it was do not resuscitate. So there was just like, yeah. So he tripped on a knife on the neck, I guess.
And I guess she doesn't want to come back if we can save her from the flesh wound.
Nah, nah, nah. She's done. She knows she's done for.
God.
So this time they put the body in a bag and they put it in the local park.
Okay.
Unfortunately, police find this body and they actually track it down to them. So now they're caught, right? In 1997, so this is basically what, 6 years?
Yeah.
So in this whole span of 6 years, she was finally caught in 1997, and she was, basically put for life in jail or prison
Oh,
because
no
obviously
wonder. I was thinking this was like 2015. No wonder the guy was able to stab her and then drop her body into the road and they couldn't find him.
I did start by saying this is 1991.
I totally, I did miss that part. I was thinking modern day technology.
Well,
Damn,
in
that
2021, She is now 71 years old, Karen, right?
Okay.
So now she's like what, 70? Was it 74, 73? I'm assuming. I don't know.
Something like that.
Basic math. I'm not doing basic math right. I don't care. But
Estimates.
in 2021, she applied for a compassionate release. Now, compassionate release basically means that she's been a good girl for X amount of time in jail, that's prison, at prison. So
Okay.
therefore, all her roommates or prison mates love her. She passes has no qualms on her record anymore. So she's trying to ask the court if she can get released early because she's like, 75 now, 71. It's time for her. She's like at the end of her life, basically, almost.
Yeah.
So she's been a good person. Does the court allow her to leave? What do you think?
No.
And why do you say no?
Not at all. Cause she's like a S tier manipulator. I feel like it's pretty easy for her to look like a good person. Right?
Well, you're right, because the court basically said you did some messed up things in the past, but we
Yeah.
cannot, in good faith, let you out again. Even if
Like
you
you
are
did.
having a good record right now.
I just yeah. Cause she was able to pull off a crime that where she physically did not do anything. Right? And I feel like you could do that again. There's like no hindrance. Like you didn't stab someone. You talked someone into stabbing someone. So you like can't have you talking to normal people. Also that boyfriend.
Yeah, that boyfriend's not good.
Yeah. Jeez.
Now,
Well, you know. Yeah.
this wasn't mentioned in this case because it was only specific to her guilty plea, right?
Okay.
But do you think they charged everyone else in this case, as in the boyfriend and the daughter? Do you think they also got charged with like murder, I guess, and such?
I would say the boyfriend, probably not the daughter.
The daughter helped dispose the father's body back then, remember?
Oh, I thought it was just like the mother and the boyfriend.
No, because the mother made Karen made her children help dispose the body,
Oh.
and also convinced her to become her best friend's faked her best friend's identity to make her the primary of that insurance.
How old was the daughter for this? Was she like an actual adult? Like, or was she like late teen situation?
I don't remember, but it's not that young. So I'm assuming it's either going to be probably like teenager to our age, I'm assuming.
Then I wouldn't hold her accountable because she was subject to manipulation.
But then when she hold the boyfriend accountable for the nation too?
Was he a teen?
Well, I'm assuming they're around the same age if they're dating, right?
Yeah, yeah. Assuming the teen he was the same age, I would say he's not because he did the physical, like he did the actual grunt work of killing someone. So like, I can give the daughter a kind of like a maybe you should go to a mental place or something. You need some time, but like it can be expunged over time because like like you were manipulated for sure. The boyfriend, like yeah, you got manipulated, but you could have like you didn't have to kill someone. Like you could have did what the daughter did. No, well you couldn't because the daughter wasn't asked to kill someone. But you could have stopped that. I'm not gonna kill a person.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it, and it's like technically they would never have done it if they weren't manipulated, but at the same time they still committed the act, which is why I feel like they're still guilty, right? Like you said, because they still
Yeah,
did it,
yeah,
regardless of
you still did the
manipulation.
act. It's like even if you're ignorant, but you still commit the crime, you still should get punished.
Yeah. But right now she's
Yeah.
still in prison because she failed the court case. So she could
And
not
that's the
get
rest of her
compassionate
life.
release.
Jesus.
um,
This happened in New Jersey?
this is all New Jersey, dude. All my court cases are ever about New Jersey. Because this is where we are. So I kind of want to hear what's going on, you know?
That's crazy that happened. I'm glad it wasn't so recent. Because I'm just thinking like, man, you have to be like pretty warped to like and you must really need money bad.
Yeah, I mean, she got the claims the first two times, most likely, considering they didn't really catch her until until they found the body.
True.
But we can go to a little funny one next. A little easier one. That's not as
Lighten the
crazy.
mood.
Here's a more recent one for you too as well. In 2018, this guy tried to run for mayor, and he accepted a bribe for $10,000 in cash in like a Baskin Robbins bag, right?
Okay.
And the state basically sues him for accepting bribery because obviously you're a state official, you can't be accepting money like that.
Yeah.
And the guy claims it's not a bribe because he didn't win as mayor. What do you say to that?
Hmm. Does he know why he got the money?
Oh yeah, he was supposed to
Like,
elect some guy into a certain spot if he got it.
then it's still a bribe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it like the nature of whether you won or not doesn't change that the act itself was a bribe.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I read this and I was like, this is so dumb. Like, you can't argue that you didn't accept the bribe because you weren't a mayor. You didn't get approved to be a mayor because the whole thing was a bribe in the first place. So regardless of what you got the position, it still doesn't look good.
Probably why you're also not mayor.
I know, and that's why I read this and I was like, bro, are you serious? You really like tried to appeal the no, like the denial before because you thought you had a case?
How did he get caught for this? Because someone had to like see the numbers, I guess, or the money.
Yeah, I'm sure someone did some crunching of the numbers and found out that like, hey, didn't you like go to that spot one time and pick up a random brown bag full of money?
There's no burger in that bag.
Yikes. See, that's a simple one. That's where it's like there's some easy, really easy cases I read like that. I really question everything. Like for instance, the one I told you about the quarry, and these dirt bikers were driving through that
Oh
quarry,
yeah.
and the employee left one of the machines that like digs up, like the dirt or whatever, hanging off the
Yeah.
ground. So it was like hanging up there, and the dirt bikers were doing their path, and they ran straight into that machinery, and then they sued, as in the dirt bikers sued, because they said that the worker had malicious intent to leave the equipment like that. And then the company literally said, first of all, we didn't give anyone just like not justification, but any permission to dirt bike or have any of this like recreational activity on our property. And secondly, our employees are working. If they leave their equipment out, it's because they're doing their jobs. So if you run into the equipment, it's not our fault because you're not even supposed to be there. And then they lost the court case because obviously they didn't have permission to be there. So why it's just crazy to me that this guy, they tried to appeal this case.
Crazy people. Surrounded
It's
by
great.
crazies.
Here's actually a crazy. This is not really that crazy, but it got me like, huh, that's interesting case.
Yeah.
So this case, it was pretty recently. I think it was, like 2020 something. I think 2020. Oh, I forgot. This is a while ago. And I'm gonna try to. I didn't write down as many notes for this case, so I'm gonna try to get it off the dome. But basically, a mother has a kid, and that kid has special needs, like autistic, basically.
Yeah.
And that kid was in danger of failing school. So, because that kid was in danger of failing school, the mother decided to have, have her leave the school and complete a state issued GED, right? Like the general education form, whatever.
Yeah.
And the kid passed that test, and the mother reapplied her daughter to go back into school. And the school denied her, stating that if your kid has a GED already, you're already qualified, you're overqualified to get a high school degree because a high school degree is a GED. So you don't have to come back here. Okay? So the mother, tries
Yeah.
to bring this to court, obviously, because that's what happens. Now, in your professional opinion, is the kid allowed to go back into school or are they overqualified?
I mean, you already got it though.
Right?
Yeah, I think you're done. Think you're done.
Yeah, I think the kid would be like, I think 2 or 3 years older than everyone
Uh,
else now, because I think she was like 18 or 17 when she completed the state issue GED. So I'm not sure when she dropped out and which semester, but if she went back in as like a freshman or sophomore, it's gonna look very weird when your
that's very
classmate is like
crazy.
3 years older than you.
Why was she trying to get the kid back in if she already got the GED though? That's what I'm confused about.
You know, to experience the normal high school life.
Bro, she's
What?
not a normal girl.
Oh,
She's not a normal
okay.
girl. Yo, yo, chat. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I was, jeez. I mean, that sign her up for community college to do an art class. All
Damn.
right. I don't think put her back in high school again. All right. That sounds like hell on earth.
Well, maybe she likes high school.
That's a cat.
Well,
That's a cat.
unfortunately, Ebenezer, or I guess unfortunately to you, they let her back in school.
Yeah, we're back. Oh,
They let her back in school. The reason why is
fine.
because technically a state issued GED is different from a school issued GED. They're
Is
two
it
separate
really?
documents with two different requirements. Yep. So
Huh.
if your employer notices your GED, they're not going to give a crap as long as you have it. But
Yeah.
technically, in the eyes of the state, they're two separate documents. Therefore, she didn't claim her school version of a GED, so she's qualified to re-enroll at school.
I mean, if it's the rules, then it's the rules.
Yeah.
Can't complain with that. But I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of backwards. Why to?
But isn't that kind of weird? Like, why is the state issued GED different than the school issued one? Shouldn't they be the same thing?
I imagine it's because the people who formulated it aren't in the same working group from when they created that kind of rule.
But then
So
it
they
begs
probably
the
made
question of like,
requirement.
what's the difference? Because there's probably some state mandate of what is required for a GED, but now you're saying there's certain factors that schools can implement to make it harder or easier.
Maybe because I feel like the only benefit for it to be different requirements is that it's easier for someone to get a GD to work in the state versus like a school's probably prerogative is like to make sure they can I guess handle a college level education moving forward.
I mean, I just don't get why that shouldn't be the same thing for both.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of resources to get a group of people to fix it, but we don't have money and time like that.
Right. I don't know. I read that and I was just like, dang, that's crazy. I never would have thought that there were two different documents that had two
Very
different
strange.
values. But moving right along. So, okay. A police officer gets a 911 call about an erratic driver, right? On the phone call, they describe the car. They describe what happened to the car. They were basically running over curbs and shit. Like they were going crazy on the road.
Yeah.
And the police officer spots the car in a driveway, right? So he moves in to stop the car, but that car pulls into the garage, and you hear a bang because what happens is the car hit the refrigerator right in front of their vehicle, right,
Okay.
while parking. So the police officer enters the garage and basically asks the driver what's going on because it basically the driver is drunk, like extremely drunk, like
Okay.
bloodshot eyes, slurring, talking real slow, and they arrest the driver on drunk driving, DUI stuff,
Yeah.
and this is the person's second offense of drinking and driving. Just so you know, the issue is that every statement that was said as soon as the police officer entered the garage could not be used in court. Why do you think that is?
He has to say the Miranda rights.
No, he said that. Also, I think once you're drunk, I don't think you understand your Miranda rights, right? So they just say like you're under due process of like you're
Yeah,
drunk
I'm
driving and
not.
stuff.
Yeah, maybe it's because he's drunk and he can't understand anything the cop's gonna say to him anyway.
Well, the issue is that when he discussed everything with her inside of the garage, she admitted to drinking and driving, obviously, and she failed all the tests.
Yeah,
But the problem is
she already
that
home.
someone's garage is technically a part of the house, and
Yeah,
therefore you had to have a warrant to enter someone's property. That includes the garage. So this was a unwarranted entry of someone's house, of private, private property, basically.
yeah,
So whatever was said after he entered the garage was just moot. Like, just can't use it at all. And when he tried to argue that like he heard a bang, so he rushed in to try to help, the court said, "Yeah, you're right. That's a good thing to say." The issue is that when you approached the lady at the door, like at her car, you didn't ask her if she was okay. Like, do you need medical assistance? All you said was like you're drunk driving. You hit the front of your fridge. You need to get out of the car. We're gonna arrest you now, basically. So yeah, everything that she said can't be used in court, which is kind of crazy because if you think about it, that basically means that she might not get charged with the DUI. She'll just get charged with the erratic driving because they have a written log of the description of the car and the stuff that the car was doing before the arrest, right?
yeah.
So she's probably not going to get the DUI charge because they can't use any of that statements and the evidence of her like failing the, you know, those tests in court, which is basically just crazy. Because stuff like this happens pretty recently, I guess, or regularly. Because I remember I told you about this one case about there was this Rutgers kid who got reported about wanting to kill his girlfriend's parents,
Oh
and then
yeah,
the police and the detective didn't say the Miranda rights correctly to the kid. So when he explained his entire manifesto of how he was going to kill his girlfriend's parents, they couldn't use it in court because they said the Miranda rights wrong. And I was just like, damn. I feel like
I
that's
feel like this is on the cops. This is like the cop has to know the law better, right?
for the Miranda rights one, they said it, but they forgot one part, which is basically asking the defendant or like the person who's in custody, do they understand what we're telling you
Then that's
fully?
not the Miranda rights then.
Yeah. So they
That
said
means you're
everything,
bad at your
but they didn't
job.
ask if you understood, and then that's what happened.
Then they didn't. You failed.
Yeah.
If I was that guy, Sergeant, I would have just been like, look, there's the Miranda rights and there's whatever you said. All right? I don't care what you said. I care that you say the Miranda rights.
I just find it sad that after all the stuff that he said, where he actually admitted to doing what he wanted to do, you can't use any of it. It's just sad.
I mean, I feel that's good in a way, because I guess that means the protects the person.
It protects the person, but that person's dangerous.
I mean, they've gotten caught. This is either the turning point, or they're just gonna get caught again.
So just let it happen.
I mean, if you're gonna do your job wrong and it's gonna make it invalid in court, then I think like that's part of the job, right? Like you can't shoot someone who hasn't started aiming their gun at you.
Yeah, I guess.
Uh,
I'm gonna pick the. I'm gonna pick this next one. This next one's kind of dumb. I'm not sure if I want to talk about that one because you know I don't want to give it our trigger warning. I guess.
trigger.
Wah! Did I talk about the service animal one?
Oh,
Basically, A couple moves into an apartment complex,
Yeah.
and in an apartment complex, they have a policy of the service animal cannot be more than 30 pounds. And
Okay.
the couple
30.
moves in, but their service animal that they get afterwards is 64 pounds. And their argument is the apartment at fault for not accommodating a service animal? Or is it the service animal and owner's fault for going over the accepted limit of the weight limit for a service animal for that property?
Wait, say that one more time for me. Hold up.
Right?
Cause now I'm thinking.
Okay. So basically, a couple moves in, they have a
Okay.
service animal. On the policy of the apartment complex, the service animal cannot be more than 30 pounds, right?
Okay.
The couple moves in, and then within like 4 days, they get a service animal that's 64 pounds. Did they break the contract and are in trouble because of breaking that 30-pound limits? Or is the apartment at fault because they set a service dog, like a service animal limit per pound of 30 pounds, you know?
Mm, I feel like it's the apartment because they didn't specify.
They specified it's 30-pound limit. That's the,
But they brought in a 60-pound dog after they already moved in, right?
yeah.
Mm,
So, like,
I
is
need to
it
read
wrong to
their
deny a
contract.
person of a service animal just because of the weight limit?
Is that what
Because
they
what if
argued
that
in the
person
court?
actually needs a service animal that's above 30 pounds, you know?
I don't know. Do you need a 60-pound dog? I mean, how big is a 60-pound dog anyway?
It was a large dog because it was 64 pounds. It's not your little Pomeranian.
I think the apartment's at fault because I would let them if they need if it's a service animal. I feel like it's negligible if it's 30 pounds more because it's a service animal.
Yeah,
But
this
then
one was
again,
kind of rough, I
I,
guess.
I don't know. I need more details because if it's a dog, I'm like, okay,
No, it's a
it's a
dog.
dog.
The dog.
Okay, yeah. Then they need it. Because if it was like a different scenario and it's like, oh, it's an iguana that's 60 pounds, I'm like, all
Oh
right,
shit.
you're stretching the line. All right, I don't know how this helps you, but
Even though they broke contract.
yeah.
So the court basically said that you can't really put a limit for a service animal because you never know
Oh,
what someone might need. So therefore, that contract of it being 30 pounds is not really the best in terms of the lingo. But they also said that they're both at fault because one, the apartment shouldn't have put a limit for the size of the service animal because you never know what someone might need. And two, the people that moved in understood the limit of the contract they signed and they broke it willingly afterwards. So they had an opportunity to get something smaller than that, but they willingly chose not to, right?
yeah.
So basically, the court said that you guys need to talk it out because we can't force the tenant to leave due to this because they need a service animal. We can't kick them out. But also, if you two discuss it amongst yourselves, go for that. Because, they're just like, it's your problem.
I think I would side with the landlord, I think, because they did sign it. And like it wasn't like a gotcha. Like you read it and you're like 30 pounds and you looked at your 60-pound dog. Oh, whatever. It's a service animal.
Yeah, the court literally said, like, you guys had ample opportunity to, like, reach in the middle, to reach an agreement, but instead
Yeah.
you just instantly went to a court case, which is why it's like, this just could have been, like, leeway, you know? It's only a 30
True,
pound
this could have been the
difference. It's a
email.
service animal.
Yeah. This could have been the email. This could have been just a discussion of, all right,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna have to pay maybe a little bit more or something because it's abnormal. It's an abnormal case. Huh.
I forgot. There's another apartment case that I didn't write down, so this is coming straight off the dome. but it's about a case where this district, as in like the apartment complex, on their advertisements, they state 24/7 security, right?
Okay.
So that means like cameras and the night watch people to make sure that there's no crime because apparently it's a very crime ridden property area. So that's
Okay.
why they labeled it as 24/7 security. And when the tenants moved in, they quickly realized that it's not 24/7 security. Because, first of all, the gatekeeper, like the police campus person, whatever,
Yeah.
is not even there 24/7. They go home at like 10 o'clock at night. And the cameras, apparently, they don't cover everything, and none of them all are on at the same time. So it's like you're marketing 24 hours, 24/7 security, and yet the security guy leaves at 10 o'clock, and sometimes the cameras aren't even on. So is this false advertisements, or is this like one of those things where you can't really guarantee 24/7 security? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, did they have proof that the cameras, like there are days in the weeks where the cameras were off between like 2 in the morning to 3 in the morning kind of thing?
Honestly, I don't remember. I just remember that the guy, like the security guard guy, clocks out and leaves. That's why the main thing I remember from that case.
I feel
So
like if they have cameras, they're probably still fine within the room of 24/7 security. Because unless they have cameras, like all the cameras are down for like a 2 to 3 hour period every other night or something. That's the only thing I could feel like would just be like, oh, it's not 24/7. Because you don't really necessarily need the guy there 24/7 to say it's 24/7 when they have the surveillance system.
yeah, that makes sense.
'Cause, I mean, because it's technically 24/7 then. But I
Because
wouldn't call it, yeah.
I think their main qualm was having no security 24/7, like personnel, and not the camera.
I think then maybe they should reformat their marketing. If they're leaning towards, if they're advertising like their security is 24/7 because there's a person there, then it's misleading. Like if the advertisement was like, oh, 24/7 security, and it's like a video of just men walking around securing the perimeter. I'm like,
Right.
all right, you're kind of pitching that you're having dudes around. So I don't think I could really hold them to it because they're just barely hitting the technicality of what security is. Like for all I know, they could put a fucking dog out there, and it's like he's out there, he's out there at night. He,
Because if I remember this court case correctly, I think the court stated that 24/7 security is sort of like that gray area of like it sounds nice on paper, but you can't really enforce it. So therefore, there's nothing really to kick the tenants out for. And I think they had the same argument of just saying like you guys should talk to your your landlord, I guess, and decide what you want to do next because it's not a problem. I think that's what they said. I am pretty sure.
I would be surprised.
I mean, if you're paying for all these amenities for that price of rent plus security, and then you realize that security is not even there 24/7, it will look kind of weird.
It would. I think, yeah, but as long as they're hitting the technicality, I think they're fine in court. But I feel like if they like, it probably seems like you're pretty close to catching them off. You just need proof, which is probably gonna be hard to get. To be like, all right, can I look at the last week of your surveillance to see if it's 24/7? And they're like, oh, we deleted every
Yeah,
24 hours.
yeah. Coincidentally, delete all the logs.
God.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Well, here's another conundrum. Um, so let's say you're in a residential area in the city. So like, I don't know, imagine the streets of Philadelphia or something, I guess.
Yeah.
And someone gets shot and that person dies, right? The issue
Okay.
is no one saw the event happen of the guy getting shot. There was no cameras running. There was no pedestrians nearby. It was literally just like that dude and that dude, and one guy got shot. Now, they do have witnesses notice a guy in a hoodie run away from the crime from
Okay.
three separate people. The issue is that each person describes the person slightly differently and may or may not be holding an object that they tuck into their hoodie, right? And also, the car in which the person has a getaway on, all the witnesses basically say a different car. And
Mitsubishi, Honda, sedan.
because I think they all said it was like a white car, but then the
Okay.
guy who they caught has a black car, who owns a black car basically. And
Hmm.
so the police, due to their magic and wonder, eventually
Okay.
find some guy who matches the description of the guy in the hoodie. And they bring that guy in, and the guy argues that like there was no connection between him and the shooting because there was no witnesses that actually can pinpoint his face and recognition that he like owns a gun and like shot this guy.
Yeah.
So he's arguing that he shouldn't be guilty for this case because of the lack of evidence. And I guess the question is that should he be guilty for this case even though there was no direct witnesses that can pinpoint his face to this event?
I mean, if you have no witnesses, then that's it, right? Like,
Because the only witnesses they do have notice a guy in a hoodie running away, which could be this guy.
but none of them could identify him, right?
Yeah.
So what that? It's like you pretty much you tell me you got nothing.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. If I was your police chief, I would have like slammed my hot cup of Joe and said, "You got nothing. I put you on this case for a week. You got nothing."
Is that kind of scary though? Like you could be arrested. So this case, I think he was supposed to get like 65 years or something, or
Holy shit,
something like
that's a
that.
lot.
A long. He was
Okay.
supposed to get in for a while, right? But like that is crazy that someone who could be innocent or guilty just get put for this case because you look like the person,
That is terrifying.
right?
That is terrifying.
Someone
And
can say that you murdered someone because you have a hoodie and you walk into a car that just so happens to be the same color as the witnesses, and maybe you're running for some whatever reason, not for exercise purposes.
I feel like, yeah, that is pretty terrifying. And it's like the ultimate bad luck because like you have no alibi because maybe you were jogging at night and like they said you tucked something in your pocket and like I did because I travel with my old iPod from my college days, so I
Right.
I tucked it in my pocket. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend has a white car even though I have a black car, so it looks like I was hiding it. It's like all coincidental. How do you prove that it's not you?
Well, thankfully, this guy proved it wasn't him because he didn't get charged for
Uh,
it. They dropped it. But shit, man.
I still can't believe that you can lock up somebody for not even like by just people's hearsay words of like, I think we all saw him in red driving a blue car.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that crazy?
That is very crazy. And then you just AoE your neighborhood and be like, everyone who matches, you may go to jail this week.
Don't wear red.
Jeez, don't wear red.
Don't wear red. Yeah.
Dang,
It's a
I
scary
can't
world
believe that.
sometimes. I technically have two more, and I'll never talk about court cases again because I don't want to.
You don't want to make it your thing.
Yeah. This is our first. I think this is our first part two of something that's actually like the
It
other
is.
script, I guess. Um. So this second last one I have is his police chief, like sergeant guy. He has a wife and kids, and they're going through like a really nasty divorce right now, where
Divorce.
she does not want to talk to him at all.
Mm,
and he is super depresso,
mm,
like not
mhm.
not feeling good. He texts a suicide note to his parents, and when the police arrive, he shoots himself and kills himself. So I guess trigger warning for like suicide. I guess probably should have said that before.
Also, for the warning of the warning, I will say when you said that, I was imagining when you said he texts his parents, it was like him texting going like, "Hey, I'm in a really bad place right now, mom and dad," and the dad texts, "Lol."
Skill issue. Hey, it's just a man thing, man.
Yeah.
We
So
don't
in
write the
case you got
system.
shocked,
Yep.
I hope that brought you back down.
Well, the mother of the husband sues the wife, stating that her actions led to his suicide, right? So
Her
she
action.
wants to have all the assets, instead of going to the wife, go to the mother.
Okay.
Is she allowed to do that?
I'm sorry, you didn't marry your son. Like by the court of the law, it goes to the wife, even though she may have driven him to the edge. But I mean, you are warned that at the beginning of marrying someone, right? Like
Is the wife responsible for his death?
I mean, unless the death note was literally like, my wife has pushed me to the edge. She bought me the caliber, she gave me the ammo, and she walked out of the room.
Well, he was
Then
a
I
police
can be
officer.
like,
He had a gun already.
that's true. I don't feel like the mother can do that. I feel like I know where she's coming from, because you like that's the person to blame.
Right.
But I can't fully blame the wife. I can't believe it's all the wife's fault. All right, unless she's like beating this man and she's like actually torturing him.
She said that it's because she denied every possible route to go to like couples therapy to talk to the husband. So there was no mediation attempt at all. It was just like divorce, done. And because he was trying
I
to
stand.
fix things
And she
and didn't
wasn't.
work out, eventually it led to him being like, all right, time to end it.
No, I don't think the mother can do it. But I think as a judge, I'd be biased, and I would say no way it's going to the wife. You literally divorced this dude, all right? And he's so broken up about it that he did suicide, all right? Then I'm like thinking like no. I personally don't like that you get his stuff. That makes me feel upset. So the mother can have it. All right, you marry somebody else. All right.
Well, they did an interview of how the children react to the wife compared to the mother, obviously, because if you're going to give assets away, you want to make sure it's going to someone who's actually like
Give it to the first. Give the
nice.
first asset the child. So wait, the child is the dictator. So they're gonna.
It wasn't a it wasn't the main factor, but it was a reason to decide who goes, if they would let the mother take assets or not.
Okay. These kids are
Because
grown up. I'm guessing, right?
well, they were kids like children,
Oh, okay. I'm interested. Okay.
and
How does this
so
play out?
they interviewed, or they like follow around the children for such, and they noticed that when it came to the mother, they were happy about it, as in like the mother of the children. And then when it came to the mother of the husband, they noticed that they were kind of like reserved, a little bit scared. Because
Really?
when the mother was interviewed about that, she said that if the kids stayed with her, she'll teach them ways to make money. They'll never be broke ever again. And the, the court was just like, it sounds like they don't want you.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're a little bit hard on them, trying
It's
to
a
make sure they
skill
have
issue.
money. So that was
He's like,
one of
I
the
don't.
factors, but they were just like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna get any of the husband's assets, and the wife's gonna keep the kids because no, you know,
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. If we're determining where the kids go,
yeah.
I think I'd be fine with that. Dang. Dang.
We're gonna. I have one left, so we're gonna really quickly go with this one. This, actually, before I even go into this one, you know how many like sexual assault cases I read where they try to get parole of good
Good
what's it called?
behavior.
Good behavior, yeah. And they all get denied because they did something so bad in their past. It's ridiculous.
I want to say 90. I want to say it's the same rate of a guy getting a match on Tinder. Right, right. It's like, outrageously low
Yeah,
because like you, there's no chance.
no
I can't
chance.
imagine a judge would let you unless you like found the cure to cancer in prison, and you're like, may I just have the last years of my life? Only then I'd be like, okay, you get a weekend, or I forget what it's called, but it's like there's this thing where on weekends they'll let prisoners go out into the world. You know what I mean? And then they bring them back
What
Monday.
like what? Is
I don't know what it's called,
that a
but
thing?
yeah, I mean, well, I've seen it in TV, in American TV, which you don't watch.
That's why
But in American TV,
so it's fake.
no, it's real. Dear listener, you watch TV. I know you know it's real, but it's some type of probation, some pseudo probation kind of thing. But why would you let out a sex offender, right? Unless
Yeah.
she's a. Nah, wait, hold up. Dear listener, you almost got me. You almost got me. You can't let them any of them out, even if they're hot chicks. All right, I know it. I know.
So I don't want to mention
Trying to keep
this
people
next
safe.
court case because I feel like it's such an easy answer for you that you're gonna laugh at this one too.
Is it gonna be like, so he shot a man point blank, but he claims the gun wasn't his? So is he guilty?
No, I wish. I don't read those like that. This one's more like this 75-year-old
Okay.
brought their 27-year-old coworker into his summer house for like a
Okay.
party or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was
Nice.
there with
Nice.
his son. The 75-year-old was there with his son. They drank a
Okay.
lot.
Oh. Okay.
And then
Cool.
she was telling her life story about something sad. The
Mhm.
75-year-old tried to console her by putting a hand on her knee
Sh- sh- sh-
and it went
sh-
onto the thigh and it
sh-
kind of went up further and
sh-
further until it reached, a sensitive part that women have.
Yes. Yes.
And so the guy stated that he was patting her to consult her. I wasn't looking where I was patting, I was just patting. And when the attorney asked him like, do you remember where you were patting, he also said, no, I have big hands, so if I went somewhere else, it's, I'm sorry about that, but I have big hands.
Your Honor, I can't be 5 foot. My hands are big.
And that's where I was just like, are you serious right now?
I pat her back. It might be her ass. I don't. I can't even tell you. They're just so big.
See, that's why I TLDR this court case, because literally it's like, first of all, they
Oh,
shouldn't be drinking like that because it's kind of weird, obviously. But second of
no.
all, you can't have a defense by saying your hands are big, and therefore I'm not sure where I was patting.
You know, if this was like a Gen Z judge, maybe I could see it. He'd be
No
like, ah,
way.
type shit. I feel you. I feel you.
No, no. I was just laughing when I read this case because I was really just like, bro, you cannot, you cannot.
The defense is crazy. My
The worst part
hands are
is
big.
that this 75-year-old was a judge, and he lost his
No.
license, which is why he tried to defend himself.
And that was his best, like, of all the years of experience.
Yep.
He's like, this will for sure put me in the gray where it's like,
Yeah,
yo.
that's why. That's crazy, man.
If I was the judge who's like reading this, I was like, bro, it's like, is this the best game you got right now? Oh
You
my
know.
god. He could have like I would have if I was him, I would have said something like, "Oh, I've been having tremors in my hand. I don't know, you know." Then I'd be like, I'd be like, I mean,
You got like what,
y-
Parkinson's?
yeah, yeah. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know if it's early onset or
It's a
like,
Tourette's twitch. I'm sorry.
right? Like that would have been at least. plausible enough. I could be like, all right, we can push this up the chain. Give it more time. But big hands, buddy, I should give you extra jail time.
Yikes.
Holy. Well, it's good to know criminals stay dumb, you know? It's good to know.
Well, this actual last one I didn't write down, and this one's very sad,
Okay.
which is why I didn't write it down, because it was just like it involves the death of a 2-year-old.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Um. Basically, these parents
Mhm.
left their kid in the care of their like niece's friend, basically, right?
Oh, okay.
So they're like neighbors. They're good friends, neighbors. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like
So
family via location of where we live kind of vibe.
yeah.
Yeah,
So they
okay.
leave their 2-year-old because the husband and wife go to work. They can't have anyone there,
Fair enough.
and I think it's just the husband actually. I don't know about the wife. I forgot. But anyway, they leave the kid under the care of, let's say, let's call them I guess Cindy again.
Sure.
Cindy and Mark, right?
Indian Mark. CM.
So Cindy is the lady that stays in the house all the time because
Okay.
she only speaks Spanish. She does not speak English at all.
Oh,
And Mark goes to work because he speaks English, right?
okay. Okay.
So Cindy has a son, and the son, we'll call him John. John is
Jot.
like 13 years old,
Oh, okay.
or around that age, so like a teenager.
All right.
And Cindy takes care of the child by, making sure that's fed, and changing diapers, yada yada. Cindy and Mark do not want to take care of this kid. They have stated multiple times to the original parents, "Hey, we don't want to take care of your kid. We like you, but at the same time, this has got to stop." And multiple times, the original parents have basically begged them, stating, "We need you to do this. You're the only one that can do this." And so reluctantly, Cindy has still maintained, babysitting this child.
Okay.
And one day, they notice that the kid is not eating and having a tantrum, and also has strange bruises and cuts on the child. And the child begins to basically smack his forehead into like the dresser or the floor, and so like visible bruises and like
Oh my
stuff
God.
is happening. And
A
he would
two.
also scratch his face to induce blood and scream out, right? So obviously, Cindy calls and records these incidents and says, "Hey, your kid is being weird. You should look up like your child to get medical help," right?
So she doesn't call 911 or anything. She just starts recording and goes, "Yo, your baby's crazy."
No, no, no.
Yo,
So this is like a gradual. Everything I stated was a gradual increase of what the child did. So when
okay.
she first noticed the like cuts and bruises, she applied a band-aid and asked the parents like, "Hey, is anything happening that I should know about?" And
Okay. Due
she would always
diligence. Okay.
say the injuries are not happening with her because she's actually watching the child. So
Yeah.
she doesn't know how she's getting the. She doesn't know where this child's injury is coming from, because when she's babysitting her, like she's making sure she's not smacking her head against the wall.
Yeah.
But on the times where she does notice it, she records it, sends it to the mother and father, and says, "Hey, you might want to like get this checked out." And the parents literally say, "No, she's good. He's fine. Whatever."
That's crazy.
And so this stuff eventually keeps happening to the point where he starts, like scratching his face and screaming out, and you see like these bruises and cuts on him. And the Cindy goes to the bathroom one time and asks her son to watch over the kid real quick while she goes to the bathroom. She's using the bathroom, and the kid goes to get food for whatever reason in the kitchen. And then you hear a loud bang and like an "oh shit," and then they go to the child, and the child is having a cardiac arrest.
Mm.
So they call 911 because obviously this is a lot more intense than just a cut and bruise. And the child gets sent in, and within 30 minutes of being in the hospital, the child passes away.
Mm.
They try to reach out to the original parents. I think it's just a husband actually, because they don't mention the wife at all. The husband works basically from like 11 to midnight. You know what I'm saying? Like
Damn,
that
12
long
hour
ass
shift.
shift.
Yeah.
So
Yo,
there
where's
are
his wife
times
at, bro?
when he would leave the kid over at that house instead of picking the kid up at night. There has been times where he has done that. And so they do an autopsy on the kid, and the kid's wounds, I'm telling you, dude, was some of the saddest shit I've read. Because he had like like a dent in his head of him smacking his head into the like ground or wall where it caused
Yeah.
internal bleeding, and he also had
Oh,
like chipped teeth, and he also
oh,
had so many other injuries that I was just like, how the hell did these happen? Because apparently it's not happening with the babysitter, who's Cindy, who's watching the child. So what's happening between taking the kid home, bringing the kid in for babysitting that's causing his injuries? And so the question is, are those two like parents, not parents, the two Cindy and Mark, are they responsible for
oh,
child
hell no.
neglect?
Oh, hell no.
Right?
I'm gonna say it's the dad and the invisible mom. All right, because you push this kid onto them, and the kid they'd take care of them, and they had enough due diligence to be like bandaging your kid from receiving it from you. All
Yeah.
right, and then they also alerted to like these injuries as well, which I feel like it should be the reverse. Like the parent should be saying like, "Hey, my kid is having injuries. What the fuck is going on?"
Well, the parents are asking Cindy where these injuries are coming from, and Cindy's asking the parents where his injuries are coming from. So both of
But
them are saying, I don't know where his injuries are coming from, because I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
ugh. You see, because like the thing is, now I need to like, someone's not actually watching the kid, and I need proof.
Yeah,
And I would assume it's the one who's working, who's dropping off this kid to them. Because Cindy and Mark are just taking this kid reluctantly. And
yeah.
Cindy, she stays at home all day. All right? And it sounded like Cindy was doing a lot of the kid has bruises, I'm putting bandages on him. I don't know why. And I didn't hear any of that on the parent side. And it definitely seems like if they have a couple bruises or something, the parents should be like saying like, "Hey, yeah, he did have bruises. We took him to the hospital, and maybe there's something wrong internally." I never heard once the parents took this kid to any type of urgent care.
They said the kid was fine.
Yeah, and your kid is not fine, all right? Your kid's having like a third person problem. So I think I blame the parents. I blame the parents, all right? Stay at home Cindy is doing her job that she did not ask to do. And if anything, she could just lock her door and you could leave that baby on the door stool, all right?
Right.
That would still be the parents' fault. But
Yeah. So the court basically said that both of them were not they weren't responsible for child neglect, basically. So they got that off their record. So they're safe from that. They basically said that Mark wasn't the primary caregiver because he was at work most of the time. So even though he was a spouse to Cindy, it doesn't really matter because like he wasn't really paying attention to the kid. You know, he's not at
yeah,
work.
he wasn't there. Yeah.
Cindy was responsible for the kid, so therefore was the guardian, but was not responsible for child neglect because one, she did her due diligence of reporting the injuries, like you said. She also asked, um, like called for help, and she
Yeah.
also wasn't like willing to. She didn't really want this job, so she's not really responsible for child neglect. Or they both aren't technically, but it's just like it was just so sad to read those injuries, man. I'll tell you what. On a 2-year-old child who's scratching his face until it induces blood and banging his head into walls and the floor, like it was just sad, man.
That is pretty depressing.
That's why I didn't write it down, which is why probably there's some things I'm missing because I didn't get all the details. But I didn't want to write it down. I figured that this is like, you know, a done deal.
You don't want to make your paper weep.
No, I mean like technically she's not responsible because she did all she could, but it's not your child, and you were the last one who interacted with the child. What?
Like it's hard. Yeah, I just feel like it's hard to say that she's even guilty because it's all like the kid died from all these internal injuries that were already reported. And I feel like if the parents took the kid to an urgent care, I feel like the whole thing, like the dent being found and stuff like that,
The
would like
question the
I don't know.
parents.
Yeah, that'd be addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like when you come in, when you go to the hospital with like an injured kid, and it's like strange injuries, the parents get questioned anyway
Oh yeah, they
to make
do.
sure like you're not abusing your child. And because there was like, it seems like they never took a kid to an urgent care. I feel like the parents are doing something shady and wrong. Because I would have been like, did you take your kid to a hospital when you saw any of the first early injuries? And it didn't seem like that was the case.
Yeah. That just triggered two more court cases I remember. I'm not gonna mention it because it sounds like we're done for today.
We're locking them up.
We're done for
I
today.
will. My, I guess my final gambit on it would, I guess, would be like I would forbid them from having children again. Yeah. I would, because I don't think you should go to jail because I don't know all the details, but I don't think I can allow you to have another child.
I mean, I think it stands to the point that like you can't send off your kid to someone else and then have these injuries and expect like nothing's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah.
Because as soon as injuries happen, it's like, what's going on? Raises the question. But on that happy note, just like last episode, I guess, or last two
I was
episodes,
so happy. Happy.
in the previous court case episode, I mean, we're gonna go into recommendations real quick because that's what we do here. So
Recommendations.
I'm gonna recommend another manhwa because I recently finished this manhwa. It is from 2019, so basically, like I think this month or last year it ended. It's called The Legend of the Northern Blade. It's a what's it called, like the mermim, like the Chinese like martial arts
I think I
thing.
read this one.
Yeah, it's over. I recently finished it after letting it cook for a long time. And basically, it's about the Central Alliance of the Central Plains that govern that area. There's a secret organization called the Silent Knights who are the bad guys that the Central Plains people fight. And so this one guy who is part of the Northern Heavenly sect, who basically fights a border between the Silent Knights and the Central Plains.
Yeah.
The people of the Central Plains get greedy and they conspire and say that the people of the Northern Heavenly sects are working with the Silent Knights. To maintain the honor of the Northern Heavenly sect,
Okay.
the guy kills himself, like the main sect leader. But before he does, he says, "You had to make sure my son does not get killed. I will kill myself and disband the sect, but you have to make sure my son lives." And so
Mm,
he kills himself, and the Silent Knight eventually like break out because obviously the person that was keeping them there is no longer there. And his son secretly learns the martial arts of his sect in order to not raise suspicion, because when the father killed himself, he did like the caveat saying like he's not going to learn martial arts, he's not going to be a threat, so don't kill him. Obviously, he's not. He's just my
okay.
son. And obviously, the Central Plains, they don't look like monsters because you can't just kill an unarmed civilian. You only kill other martial artists. That's the rule of the mermaid. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So eventually, this guy, the kid, Jin Mu, he learns martial arts, stages of rebellion, and he fights back
Of course.
against the Silent Knights and also the Central Plains people because they killed his father. And to give a slight spoiler, the reason why I really like it is because the ending works. And to talk about the ending in a spoilerly, non-spoilerly way, there's like this massive fight, right?
Okay.
And in this massive fight, it's basically like Naruto Sasuke versus Madara. And
Okay.
they both get the upgrade of the spirit of I forgot to say Naruto. What's that guy called again? Pat the Sixth Sage, whatever, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They both
The
individually get that upgrade, which is so great because canonically, before they got that upgrade, they could barely scratch Madara. And then they got the upgrade and they were like, all right, now we can kill this guy.
yeah.
And I love that power dynamic because it was really just like, now I understand why you got this strong so quick to make the last fight worth it. Because they were
Yeah.
already like, on par, but they toughed it out. And they sort of got the happy ending, which is why it sort of makes sense. And I'm not gonna spoil anything else besides that. But yeah, it's all about the guy, as in like the kid, secretly creating his sect again to revenge his father and also destroy the Silent Knights because they're the bad guys. And it's good. And it's over. So you can read the whole thing. You can read all 202 chapters.
202 chapters.
Yep. That's my recommendation, y'all. If you like martial arts of the special cheaper town hall.
Cheap down all.
That's all he wanted. He just wanted a cheaper
Oh
town hall.
gosh.
How about you? What are you
Okay.
going to recommend for this, dear listeners?
I'm going to recommend Invincible. Invincible.
Invincible.
Because it does a lot of cool, interesting things, and that's not really why I like it. I think I like it just because there's been so many superhero stuff in the past 5 years that's been flat, like ever since Avengers Endgame, kind of like ended the reason why people watch Marvel movies. So it's been nice to see the resurgence of superhero stories, and like now that it's not all like tied to Marvel,
Right.
and so it feels like it's living its own thing. Because I would say Invincible and The Boys do a great job of that. Super gory and whatnot, but ultimately it's someone else finally telling a superhero story that doesn't own the Avengers.
I think
So I
superhero
like that.
stories had to be graphic because comic books had those graphic moments, but like you can't argue that if you had the strength to rip someone in half, you're not going to rip a goon in half. Like the Hulk was like pummeling someone in the ground and his fist didn't go through their chest. It's like
Should be
I
dead.
don't know, man. He
Yeah.
wasn't holding back. He has no reason to hold
Yeah.
back.
That was only 10% of my strength. I'm known for not using all my power.
Yeah, because all
Very
I see
true.
about I haven't watched Invincible obviously because I don't watch TV, even though I want to watch it eventually. I heard that it deviates from the comic, but I do like
Apparently it does.
how
I didn't
every
know
time
that.
you see the clips, it's you see the guy fighting and it's like gory as hell, like blood everywhere.
I think, yeah, I know there's a lot of talk of it, with the animation being meh, and that's only because people who watch cartoons who are adults watch anime. And anime scale of animation is just a lot more extreme than American animation.
Yeah, I remember you
But
saying that the animation style was very different.
it is. It is. But I grew up in the if you watch American cartoons, like if you watched 4 Kids TV on Saturday morning,
That's right.
like then you're familiar with the Teenage Mutant level of like fighting in
Yeah.
cartoons. And that's what I've kind of like grown into. Like when I watch DC movies and whatnot, I'm animated movies. It's like the same thing. It's like, oh, he should have like that punch should have broken that guy's neck, but it didn't. But you're like, because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Invincible. Apparently, I didn't realize how old it was. It's apparently he started it 20 years ago, and I
Oh,
think he's the same
really?
guy who did Walking Dead.
Wow.
So I was surprised. I was about to watch a video of his upcoming of like where he was when he started it. But it did say that he used to work. He was a broke comic book clerk.
Oh,
20, and I think he started Invincible 20 years ago. So pretty much right when we were born.
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Well, did you hear that?
You know what?
My mic just picked up the wind because I have the window open. I'm so curious if you guys heard that or not.
The condenser.
If you did hear that, it's because it's a banana, okay?
You know,
Yeah. Bananas are very loud, don't you know?
they grow very loud. I've heard.
When you peel it, it sounds like their house is blowing away with the big bad wolf. But on that note, thank you for coming along and listening to our shenanigans of court cases again. Even though I feel
Thank
like
you.
this episode wasn't as good as last episode. But it is what it is. We're not gonna do it again for a while
Yeah.
until yeah. And I will bid you adieu.
Goodbye, dear listener.